Hi guys, welcome back to the Morning Bookshelf. I am going to do a 2 books in 1 video again. It's kind of common for me. But I will be talking about The Beautiful, which is book 1, and then book 2, The Damned, by Renee Ahdieh. This is a new vampire trilogy or trilogy series. I'm not quite sure how many supposed to be in this series. I haven't quite looked at it, and I'll explain that in a minute. But anyways, so I'll talk about The Beautiful. The Beautiful started out, I got interested into it because I kept seeing people post about it on Instagram with the hashtags. Saw people just giving this a lot of love. I kept seeing it in the bookstores and stuff like that, and people were falling in love with this because it's supposed to be like a really good vampire story. So I was like, why not? I rented it on Libby, checked it out, and I will admit this almost was a book fail, but I pushed through. I finished it. I am pretty satisfied that I finished it. I wouldn't necessarily say I loved the book, and I was obviously intrigued enough to rent the second one. But anyways, so before we start, I probably should say I am a big vampire fan. I have been a big, huge fan of vampires since I was little bitty. All started with Dracula. So anything vampire I tend to kind of gravitate towards because I love the creature so much. But anyways, The Beautiful. It follows a girl named Celine, who is a dressmaker in Paris, and she is fleeing Paris because of bad events that's happened, and she's needing to start a new life, and she escapes to New Orleans, and this is all happening about the late 1800s. But she's come to New Orleans and is taken in by the Ursuline Convent, which is a convent that is set up for finding unwed women, proper husbands, all the while trying to keep them as proper women as much as possible. A lot of backwards thinking for this time period. She is hired to make a dress for Odette, who is part of the Court of Lions. So with that, she meets Sebastian, who is kind of the leader of the Court of Lions. And they kind of have this, I want to necessarily call it enemies to lovers relationship, because they don't really start as enemies. They don't really hate each other. They don't really, there just wasn't enough for me to pick up that there was much hate between them, or there's a bit of distrust, I guess. But anyways, they do have that type of love trope. And there's these mysterious murders that are happening around New Orleans, and they're targeting women. Well, not really, I guess women, all women, but there's mainly women, and they are targeting Celine now. And the murders are very gruesome. Yeah, with all this, Celine's now trying to stop the murder from killing her, and also trying to figure out who it is, and maybe hopefully save someone. So yeah, it's kind of the kind of very brief, horrible summary. but anyways, so I liked the world. She did a really good job building it, and this is the first books that I read from Renee Ahdieh. But the world building was pretty good. Celine was a really good character, very passionate. She had a lot of anger. There was a lot of anger and angst from her. But she was definitely headstrong and stuff. She knew what she needed to do to protect herself. And she didn't like relying on people, and I thought that was a really good quality for her. Totally different than women of that time period. Sebastian was a good character. I feel like we didn't get enough of him, but that will come later. And there's another guy named Michael. Unfortunately, we got a lot more of him than I liked, but you know, it is what it is. But yeah, everything was okay. The characters were good. My biggest complaint out of the series is the fact that it lacked vampires a lot. Like, it wasn't like it wasn't really heavy in vampires. Vampires was like a footnote, and the only time that we got any type of mention of vampires was really towards the end, and brief little diary-like entries from the killer or whatnot. So I wouldn't necessarily say this is a vampire story. It was a slow burn. All of that mixed together with I hate the way that Sebastian came off. He came off very almost kind of like he came off very like, don't like me, I will hurt you. So you gotta stay away from me, don't get involved with me. Very much like how Edward was doing with Bella in Twilight. And there was a lot of similarities really between Beautiful and Twilight, unfortunately, and none of it was original. I almost book filled it. So yeah, but I finished it. The ending did catch me a bit by surprise, because who I was thinking was a vampire and it wasn't who I thought it was. And I'm not going to do any spoilers for that just in case anybody hasn't read it. But yeah, no, I mean, it was okay. I wouldn't necessarily say it was even a vampire story or even that I liked it. But obviously I was intrigued enough to rent the second book, which is The Damned. So, on to The Damned. I'm going to try to be as spoiler-free as possible because this book just came out. I only got maybe about 11 to 15% through the book. So I stopped. It is an absolute book fail for me. And my biggest complaint is the fact that we got so little of a supernatural world and The Beautiful. Like, The Beautiful was more murder mystery than anything. But we got no real supernatural in it. Then in the second book, The Damned, it was an absolute supernatural dumping of every bit of supernatural being possible, all within the first few chapters, because one of the characters is now a vampire, and it's like he's now been opened up to this whole world, and it's like, what the hell just happened? You've completely overwhelmed me, and now you gave me nothing really in the first one, and now all of a sudden you're throwing everything in? Okay. There are two creatures that I'm only familiar with through D&D, kobolds and cambions. Kobolds are like little lizard dog people type things that like have like 2 hit points, and Roman packs, and they're just really like low at the bottom of the barrel type creatures. But they're mentioned, but not really described. And then she describes about a cambion. In D&D terms, a cambion is a demon. That's more infernal than a tiefling, even though they're about the same parentage-ish. But in her world, a cambion is a cat shifter. And that completely threw me, because I'm like, oh, I was expecting, there's this big fight scene, and this character is now having to battle him. It's like an all-out Fight Club type thing. And then he starts talking about going through this creature's memories of being, a kitten or a cub and his cat shifter mom, and it's like, what the hell? That's not a cambion. That's a cat. That's a shifter. It's okay. You can keep it a shifter. You don't have to call it a Cambion. I could be wrong. There could be a Cambion shifter in paranormal universe that's not D&D related Cambion, but that's the only Cambion I know, and that completely threw me for a loop. But yeah, there is Fae. There is Asterial. Asterial. I think that's the word. Could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. Or angel beings, there's changelings, there's halflings, there's werewolves, shifters of every type, fairy. It's just, there is so much that I'm just like, this is no longer a straight vampire story. This is now just a normal, everyday, run-of-the-mill paranormal story. Or, yeah, paranormal creature story. In this one, we get a lot more Sebastian because he is very pivotal into this book, as much as what I already have seen, which is not a lot. What I did hear, as I was listening to it, I wasn't enjoying the way this was going. I felt more annoyed by everything than I was even in the first one. So yeah, I didn't really get into a whole bunch. New characters were kind of sort of being introduced, but that was really kind of it. So yeah, I book filled it. It was just way too much, too many characters, and there could be a totally big reason why she did so many, opened up this whole paranormal world. In the second one, because it pertains to later books or so. But I'm not going to know, unfortunately. I'm not going to know, unfortunately, unless someone convinces me I need to go back and listen to this book again. So yeah, I can only really tell you about 11% of it, and even parts of that. Most of that was I was annoyed and left baffled as to why the author gave us very I know why the author gave us very little. She was mainly following Celine, and in the 11 to 15% of the book that I listened to, Celine is hardly in it. And things have shifted for Sebastian, and he's kind of the main storyteller at the moment, that it kind of makes sense on why so much of these creatures were now thrown in. It was just too much for me. I didn't really sign up for the Fae world that much. I signed up for a vampire story. Closed-minded, call it what you will. But I wanted a vampire story. But anyways, but yeah, so book fail. Sorry, not sorry. But I am a little disappointed by it. I wish it had been better. But, not every book is for everybody. So apparently this one was not for me. And I am totally fine with that, because I have other books I can read. And if I want a different vampire story, I have many at my disposal, apparently. So, if you have read The Damned, if you liked it, I'm happy for you. I'm glad you, again, kind of like my other book fails or dislikes. I'm glad you got something out of it that I did not. If you did finish The Damned, please tell me what you liked about it. Tell me that it gets better. Almost kind of convinced me I need to go back to finish this, because I hate leaving books unfinished. It's almost like I hate it, because I feel like I'm missing out, but I don't have the drive to want to continue exploring. But yeah, so on The Beautiful, not so much on The Damned. But yeah, it is what it is. But anyways, hopefully I think I hit all the points that I needed to make or wanted to make. If you have any questions about it, please drop them in the comment section or hit me up on Instagram or whatnot. I'll be happy to talk about all this. But anyways, that was The Beautiful and The Beautiful Book 1 and The Damned Book 2 by Renee Ahdieh. They are both out on shelves now, and on Libby. So if you want to read them, check them out, whatnot, have at it. Hopefully you enjoy them, because they were kind of not for me. But anyways, like, comment, subscribe, share. If you have any book suggestions or recommendations for books you want me to review or whatnot, hit us up. But yeah, thank you for watching my hopefully less rambling, not really, review, book fail, and we will catch you guys next time. Bye.